Back at CBS News election headquarters, call a doctor, call the police, call a psychic. In Florida, it's tightened up. Only 37,000 votes now separate George Bush and Al Gore, 49% to 49%. The Electoral College vote is 246 Bush, 242 Gore. The presidency still hangs in the balance. It's election night on CBS.
Next Sally.
CBS News election night headlines at this hour. Bush can see the promised land, but he's not there yet. The Gore camp's prayer put Florida back in the Gore win column. The rest of us could be out here waiting in the desert for a good while more. At 1:30 a.m. in the east, this is where the all-important Electoral College vote count stands. 246 for Bush, 242 for Gore. It takes 270 to win. Here you see the national popular vote overall right now. 49-48, Bush leads Gore. It's way past the witching hour in more than half of America, but we still don't know which candidate will be president of all America. The Electoral College map looks like this. Florida with 25 undecided, Iowa with 7 ditto, same story in Wisconsin with 11 Electoral College votes, and out in Oregon where Bush has a lead and Nader is a factor, still undecided for Oregon's 7 Electoral College votes. Now, as far as control of the House of Representatives is concerned, we've been reporting for some while. We're convinced that the Republicans will retain control of the House of Representatives. In the Senate, Bob Schieffer, you still think things are pointed in the direction of a possible 50-50 tie, which means if Bush is elected, that Dick Cheney would have the deciding vote in tie votes.
It all depends now on what happens out in Nebraska and what happens in that strange race down in Missouri. Still, both of them too close to call. A little earlier tonight, you know, Dan, one of the big stories of the night that's kind of been overshadowed by this presidential race, but clearly something that's never happened before, a first lady elected to the United States Senate. And Hillary Clinton, here's what she said just a while ago when she claimed victory.
I promise you tonight that I will reach across party lines to bring progress for all of New York's families. Today we voted as Democrats and Republicans. Tomorrow we begin again as New Yorkers.
Of course, Mrs. Clinton got a little early start as a New Yorker. She became a New Yorker earlier this year. She was born in Illinois, of course, and spent a lot of time in Arkansas. There you go.
Well, Bob, if, as things are now pointed, not yet conclusively, Bush wins the presidency, Hillary Clinton would become one of the early favorites for the presidential nomination of the Democratic Party next time around. Gray Davis, governor of California, would be in that race maybe for the Democratic nomination. John Edwards, the young senator up and coming from North Carolina. Anybody else you can
Perhaps
think of?
Joe Biden up in Delaware. He's run before. But I think you have to say at this point, Hillary Clinton, if Gore loses, becomes the face of the Democratic Party. Now, that's going to please some Democrats. It's also going to displease some others. But right now, you have to say she's on the short list.
Take a deep breath. Out of 5 million votes cast in Florida, take a look at this, folks. The Bush lead is now down to 20,000 votes, 49% each. 20,000 votes, Bush still leads it for these 25 Electoral College votes, and asterisk bottom of the page, we don't know where the absentee ballot count is. Bush was expected to do well in the absentee ballot voting. 95% of the precincts reporting in Florida. I wouldn't say this guarantees it, but this increases the odds that nobody's going to know for a long while how Florida goes. But, Ed Bradley, as we've been saying, Bush can go to bed yet knowing that he's president, even if he doesn't know how Florida goes.
He can if he wins all of the others. For Al Gore, he's got to win Florida and something else. And I think with what we've seen before is that most of the 5% of those votes, many of those votes, are coming from Broward County, from Dade County, which are strong Democratic counties in Florida. If that is the case, that margin is going to tighten even more, so that then you will have 30,000 absentee ballots that aren't going to be counted until tomorrow. So you could have a situation here where we could go to bed tonight and not know who the President of the United States is until those votes are counted tomorrow.
True enough. Al Gore's situation is he's basically got his back to the wall, his shirt tail on fire, and the bill collector's at the door, but he's not yet finished. 246, 242, it takes 270 to win. There are enough votes still out there for Al Gore to win, although the advantage remains with Bush, as it has for about the last 2.5 or 3 hours. Anthony Mason on our poll watch, how about the senior vote?
Dan, as that Florida race keeps tightening and seniors are key down there, let's take a look nationally how seniors voters. Among voters 60 years of age and older, Gore has a slight edge. Just 51 to 47%.
Is it raining in Nashville?
We asked seniors what issues matters most to them today. This is not a surprise. They told us it was Social Security and prescription drugs. We asked them then how the government should help seniors pay for prescription drugs. 2/3 supported Gore's position that we should increase Medicare. But overall, the senior vote is still as tight as everything else in this election, Dan. A very close edge to Gore, but it ain't much.
Anthony Mason on the poll watch. As the hours stretch from night into early morning and headed to the wee hours in Austin and Nashville, the weather has been tough, tough, tough on crowds in both places. In Austin, Texas, live, and the rains came. They've had a terrible drought in Texas this year, maybe the worst since 1952. Whoo, boy, do they need the rain, but they were hoping not to get it tonight. But as you can see, it's raining as it frequently does in Texas, almost straight down, soaking people, waiting to celebrate what they still hope will be, and have every reason to believe may yet be, a George Bush victory. And in Nashville, Tennessee, the rains came. Crowds in Nashville waiting there, hoping against hope that Gore can have one more comeback. If Gore comes back now, it'd have to be rated as one of the greatest comebacks since Lazarus. But it's possible. It's possible because what Gore needs, he needs Florida and one of the other states out there, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Oregon. If Bush gets Florida, it's over. And if Bush gets all the other 3 states, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Oregon, he doesn't need Florida. That's the reason we say it's advantage to Bush. But not over. 246 electoral votes for Bush, 242 for Gore. It takes 270 to win. On the national vote, we keep showing you that national vote because while the electoral count is decisive, the national vote is nonetheless important, 49-48, with Bush leading Gore as he has just about for the entire night. Now, on the map, let's review it. Florida, 25 electoral votes. It's down now to a Bush lead. Gore led early in the evening. Now this undecided Florida 25 electoral votes is down. Gore's been closing in the last hour and a half to 2 hours down to about a 20,000 vote margin. In Iowa, 7 electoral votes there. If we can get it up, let's take a look at how things stand in Iowa with the actual presidential vote in and tabulated in Iowa. 49-48, Gore leads Bush. Nader not a factor in Iowa. 95% of the precincts in and reporting these 7 electoral votes could still go either way. And in Wisconsin, with 11 electoral votes there, the presidential race looks this way. 48-48, Nader holding 4. 11 electoral votes in Wisconsin, with 83% of the precincts reporting this one couldn't get any closer and could go either way. And finally, for Oregon, 7 electoral votes in the presidential race. This is the way it looks at this hour in Oregon. I'm sorry, this is the new House thing, but here's Oregon up. 7 electoral votes. Bush leading 49-46%. Nader holding 4% of the cards, and right now Nader is the difference, if you will. But no one should make the assumption that all of the Nader votes would have gone to Al Gore. It's a reasonable hypothesis that many of them would have gone to Gore, but more about that later. This is with 58% of the precincts reporting in Oregon. In Oregon, they have an unusual voting policy out there that people can vote by mail. They don't really have an election day. They have a number of days, and that's one reason that we do not yet know how Oregon is going to turn out. So 246 Bush, 242 Gore, with 270 needed to win. Stay here with us. Dan Rather at CBS News Election Headquarters in New York City.
And
We're back at CBS News headquarters here in New York, and boy, is this one close. 246 electoral votes for George Bush at this point, 242 electoral votes for Al Gore. How close is it? Well, I've just sort of gone back to the record books to check it out, and by my calculations, way back in 1800, Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr tied with 73 electoral votes, and then it was Rutherford B. Hayes got 185 electoral votes. Samuel Tilden got 184 electoral votes. That was back in 1876. I can't find a closer one since then. Ed Bradley, part of this is going to come down to Iowa. What's going on out there?
You know, it's close because of, as they say, the old folks in Iowa, and they have the third oldest population in the country. And you look at people 65 years or older in Iowa, that's usually a good group for the Democrats. But here they're going 51% for Al Gore, 48% for George Bush. It's a very close race there. And you remember the expression, the Reagan Democrats back in 1984. Well, how about the Clinton Democrats? Because 19% of the people in Iowa who voted for Bill Clinton are now voting for George Bush. So Al Gore has lost them.
Well, Ed Bradley, I haven't spoken myself about one thing. And looking at Iowa's 7 electoral votes and that very, very close race out there, I said Nader is not a factor. That turns out to be not the case, because in a double check, Nader is getting about 26,000 votes in Iowa. As a matter of fact, let's just punch up Iowa and the race for its 7 electoral votes on our full screen here, so you can see 7 electoral votes. Gore 49%, Bush 48%, but with 97% of the precincts reporting. But what that doesn't show is that Nader is getting about 2% of the votes.